Hi there! Thanks for joining me for my very first YouTube tutorial. Today we're going to be sewing up a zippered binder pouch. It features two separate zippered sections. You're going to have a zipper tab for each zipper. You're going to have 3 grommets and some type of fabric that doesn't fray and is pretty sturdy. Let's show you our fabric choices. We're going to use this waxed canvas from Soulful Therapy and this beautiful floral print from Cotton and Twirls. We're going to have our clear vinyl, our 2 zipper pulls, our 3 grommets, and our zipper tape. Let's get started. I am cherishing today because this is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. The first step is to take your 2 zipper tapes, your 4 zipper tabs, and your 2 zipper pulls. We're going to separate them into sets and put one to the side. Then you're going to take one, you're going to open your zipper just slightly, and you're going to insert your zipper pull. Now hopefully I can get this pretty quickly. You just never know. And there we go. So we just put it on a little bit of the ways. Then we're going to take and we're going to line up our zipper tab with that edge. Again, it's the edge like this. And we're going to sandwich it between the 2 zipper tabs. And then we're going to sew with our seam allowance that's written in the pattern right here. Now, we'll be right back. Okay, we're going to sew this at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Make sure to back stitch real good at the beginning and end. Have my good scissors. These work. All right. So now you see that we have sewn across here, and then we're going to take and fold it back on both sides. And then we'll top stitch right along there. I'll be right back. So we lift our foot, it's out of the way. It's going to be an 1/8 inch. So back stitch good, and 1/8 inch. Good snips this time. Now we've top stitched right across the top of this zipper tab, and we're done with this zipper for the moment. So we'll put it aside and we'll get the other one out, and we're going to do the exact same thing with the other one. We're going to first put our zipper pull on the end. Okay, just get it on a little bit. We're going to sandwich our zipper tabs over the end here. And make sure your right sides are what's against the zipper tape, both on front and back. It doesn't really matter with the fabric that I'm using. That's why you don't see me worrying about it too much, because on this, they're both the same. The front and the back really looks the same. So it doesn't really matter on this fabric, but make sure that if you're using any kind of regular print that you do put the right sides against the zipper tape on this and this. All right, again, we're going to do this with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Making sure to backstitch. Good at the beginning and the end. Okay. Now we're going to unclip and flip both of these with the right side out. And then we're going to top stitch with a 1/8 inch seam allowance right across here. Again, a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now, one thing we've got to also make sure we do is we lengthen our stitch. Okay. Back stitch good. And back stitch. Come up. Okay. And you can see our top stitching. So now our zippers are ready to be put into the panels. For this section, we need the top panel and we need the top zipper tape that has already been prepped with the zipper tab. You're going to take the top panel and flip it over. You want the slant starting at the bottom left corner and going up. You're going to take your ruler and measure 1 1/4 inches. Take your writing instrument and make your mark. Then you're going to take your zipper tape, and right here where the fold is, you want the right side of the zipper tape touching the right side of the front panel. And you're going to line up the tab fold right there with that line you just drew. Let me show you. See? There's the line and there's the folds. So they're right there even. And then you're going to go through and clip it all the way down the slant. After you've clipped it in place, then you're going to take it to your machine and you're going to sew this on. Okay, now we're going to sew this on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. What I do is I put it at 1/8 inch on here, and then I move my needle over, and then I don't have to change my foot. Makes it nice. And then make sure you back stitch really well at the beginning and the end. To move my pull back. like to clip right here on the bottom where you're not sewing because it holds it in place while you get to the end. It's just another little thing I like to do there. And we should be just about to the end. Let's go ahead and back stitch well. Back, up. All right. What you can do then is you will open it up, and then we will top stitch with a 1/8 inch seam allowance along this. Don't forget to change your seam allowance, and if you moved your needle, you need to make sure you move it back, because on this one you can actually do it right even width. So we're in here, and this will be an 1/8 inch seam allowance, and we're at the top stitch length, and we're going to just follow along at an 1/8 inch. Actually open it a little bit because I don't want to have it come off the end. You definitely don't want it to come off the end. It will be more difficult that way. So just move your pull around however you need to. All the way to the end of this and back stitch. And all right, we'll move on to the next step. For this step, we need our clear window, a marking pen that will rub off, a ruler, and some masking tape. Some people may choose to use a double-sided tape during this, but I don't use double-sided tape because you will see it through the clear window. So what you do is you will lay your clear window right side up. It's going to be a little bit difficult to see, so I'm going to line up with the grid lines on this mat to kind of help you out. Right side up would have the slant going up towards your left hand side. Now, you start on your top right corner. You're going to measure 1.5 inches from the top right corner, and you're going to mark that. Now, after you mark that, then you're going to take your top panel that already has the zipper attached to it, and you're going to line up that mark you just made with the fold of the zipper tab. And you're going to lay it over the top. Now you're going to want to overlap the zipper tape by about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. That's going to be your personal preference. I kind of use this top as a guide to help me figure out where I want to line it up. And then I like to clip over here, and then I take my masking tape and I tape it down. So get it all lined up real nice, and take the masking tape and tape it down. And then you'll just tape it along the whole side until you get over here to this side. And this should pretty much line up over here, but if it's okay if it doesn't, because in the end we will trim it and do what we need to do. So we're going to take more masking tape. I like to do little sections because when you're sewing, it's easier to just pull little sections off as you're going. So that's another thing I do is when I'm taping this, I try to find a line in the zipper tape and just stick with it the whole length of the zipper tape. And that helps keep it pretty even too. It's going to be a little wonky right here looking while you tape it, but while you're sewing, you'll be moving that zipper pull around, so it'll adjust, it'll work its way out, and it won't be that big of a difference of what you'll notice. Now let's take it to the machine. We're going to sew right along the edge of the zipper tape, and then we're going to do another line right along the edge of the clear window. All right, we're going to be stitching 2 rows. I put some Scotch tape on the bottom of my zipper foot to help it slide. Remember, this is technically a top stitch, so you're going to want to move your stitch length to where you like to top stitch. And I take my first tape off, but I can hold it in place and keep it lined up by looking at the lines on the zipper tape. So, back stitch well. And if you find that your clear is actually sticking, you can put just like a piece of paper underneath. So long as you're not hitting your needle's not going into it, you have nothing to worry about. Technically, tissue paper would do it too, and your needle could hit it, but you want your feed dogs to still work, so. Okay, I'm gonna stop here because you see this is where the zipper pull is, and it's making a lump here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this next set of tape off, and I'm gonna open my pull a little more. I don't wanna close my pull, I guess is what you would call it. I don't wanna close the pull, because if I close the pull, then I had risk pulling it off. So we're gonna keep going here. About an 1/8 inch from the edge of the zipper tape. Now, because we're this far, I'm gonna go ahead and lift my foot and go ahead and put my pull back where it was. I don't like to move it too much during these stages because you do not want it to come off. And then we just keep on going. We're at the tape again, so we want to remove the tape. Just make sure your line is lined up that you're using. We're just going to hold it on now and keep going. Go all the way to the end. Now, I want to tell you something here real quick. We double back stitch here, come out, snip our threads. If you notice, the edge of this is hanging off, and it's not even with this. And that's gonna happen sometimes. And if it does, that's no big deal. What we're gonna do at the end is we're gonna trim it all off to make it all even and squared. So don't worry about it. It happens to all of us. Now we're gonna sew one more line of stitches, about an 1/8 inch away from that. And because I'm not changing my foot, I'm moving my needle over. And I just follow along the tape, back stitch well. I'm not worried about it moving so much and being wonky this time because it's already sewn into place. So we're just doing another line of stitches. And we move our pull just a little bit. Don't put it too far. And go all the way off the end here. And back stitch well. And there you go. we're going to go ahead and trim this up now. I'm going to line it up with the grid lines on the mat here. I'm going to take my ruler, line it up with the top and the grid line, and we should stay pretty straight, and then we're going to make this even right here. The reason we're doing this is so that we can stay even on the next step, which is to do the next bottom zipper tab. Okay. Okay, for this portion, we need our pocket lining. You're going to have it where the slant goes down to the right. You're going to have it right side up. You're going to measure 1 1/4 inch from the edge and mark on the right side. This is going to be totally hidden in your seam allowance, so don't worry. Now, you're going to take and turn it over, and you're going to put double-sided tape along the top up here. So let's do that. There's going to be a lot of parts and pieces in this next few steps, so you want to make sure that you have it stuck down really well. Okay, for this step, we are going to take our zipper tape. We're going to have it wrong side together with the wrong side of the pocket lining. You're going to take off, you don't have to take it all off, I like to, and you're going to line up where you made your little mark with the fold, just like you did in the previous steps. When you line that up, you want to make sure that you stick it down just slightly below the edge of the zipper tape, because you're going to catch that in your seam allowance. So make sure it's just slightly below. I like to go kind of slow and just stick it down right below the edge of the zipper tape. And I'll show you as soon as I get it stuck down to help you understand what it's going to do here. So then it's going to fold like this, and it's going to be where you see the pretty side through the clear window. Now you take your prepared top and clear window, and then you take the pocket lining. You're going to measure on the clear window bottom right corner 1 1/4 inches from the bottom right edge. You're going to take and line that line up with the fold of your zipper tab. I like to clip it in place, and then you can tape it. Again, I don't use the double-sided tape on this portion because you will see it through the clear window here. We just tape it all the way and hold it in place. I reuse my tape because there's no reason not to. And another clip to hold it in place. This time we're going to be sewing close to the teeth. Let's slide it in here very carefully so that we keep it where we want it. We need to make sure that our foot will work. And there we go. We're going to change it to the top stitch length, and I am moving my foot over to make, my needle over to make sure that I catch the edge. Okay, we're gonna back stitch well, and we're gonna go forward. I'm gonna take tape off. All right, we're to our pull, and we can actually take it to the back because the back is, there we go. We're going to go forward again. Take this off. There we go. Remember, I follow the lines in the zipper tape, and it really helps keep it lined up. Back stitch well. With your pocket lining sewn in now, you're going to take and fold it up. Make it tight as you can right here, fold it up, and then you're going to take it to the machine, and you're going to now sew along the top edge of the zipper tape itself. Let's go to the machine. Okay, now we're going to sew along the top edge of the zipper tape. Be sure to back stitch well at the beginning and the end. Again, this is a top stitch length before you get started. And here we go, back stitch well, forward. All right, now we're going to move our pull back again. Get it out of the way. And there you go. Now we have 2 rows of stitching right there at that zipper, and 2 rows at this one. So we have our whole top portion completed. All right, we take our bottom panel and turn it wrong side up, where the slant is going down in the top left corner. Now you're going to take your ruler and you're going to measure 1.5 inches and make a mark. Then you're going to turn your piece right side up, and you're going to put double-sided tape along the right side on the slant. Make sure it's stuck down real good. All right. All right. We need this piece again, and we need this piece that we just put the double-sided tape on. We are going to match up our line that we drew right here with the fold. You want to keep it just slightly below the edge of the zipper tape to catch it in the seam allowance. So we're going to pull off our backing and start lining it up. Make sure you get your zipper pull out of the way. And I like to clip at the beginning and the end. It's not necessary when you have double-sided tape, but it just helps to make sure. Another thing you might want to do is clip this back pocket or back lining near the top to avoid it coming down and getting caught while you're sewing. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew at a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the edge of the zipper tape all the way along this side. All right. Again, I'm not changing my foot out to a zipper foot, so I'm lining it up at the 1/8 inch mark, and I'm moving my needle over. We go all the way over to the back, and then we go forward. I'm getting close to my pull. Do I have room? Not yet. Let's go a little further and then move our pull. Okay. Down. And continue to sew with a 1/8 inch seam allowance. Stitch. After you've sewn it, you're going to take it and you're going to fold it down, and then you're going to crease it. Okay? Then you're going to take and you're going to sew a top stitch line 1/8 inch from the fold. Remember to change it to your top stitch length. Back stitch. Fold. Move your pull. Now we're going to trim everything down. We're going to remove our clips from the top so that we get everything as flat as possible. We're going to trim down our right hand side to make it totally even all the way. Then I see that right here at the top right, I have a little bit of a gap, so I'm going to trim that. Now we know that we're even all the way around. What we're going to do, we're going to take our printer paper we're going to line it up. If you notice, the edges just barely peek out on each side, and that's perfectly fine. This pattern is designed so that you can make the width anywhere between 8.5 and 9 inches, and this one is right at 8 7/8. So we're just going to leave it that width. Another thing I want you to notice is right here. I don't know if you can see that, but my clear vinyl actually ends just inside, so it's not even right here. That's also perfectly fine because our seam allowance will be 1 inch for this side. We're going to build up some bulk here for the grommets in the next few steps. With the front panel now complete, we're going to take it and set it aside for just a moment. We're going to take our back piece and we're going to lay it down wrong side up. You're going to take your ruler and you're going to measure 1 inch in. You're going to take your marking tool and you're going to make a line. Now, once you've made this line, you're going to take your front panel back and you're going to line it up along the left hand edge. They're going to be right sides together here. And then we're going to clip them in place. Now we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to sew right here on this line that we just drew. All right, let's sew right on that line. Back stitch well at the beginning and the end. The good thing about a 1 inch seam allowance, you don't even have to move your clips. Until the beginning and the end. And back stitch well. Now that we've sewn our two pieces together, we're going to take our interfacing and we're going to center it right here inside of the seam allowance. I am using the Thorofuse by Fabric Therapy because not much sticks to waxed canvas. But you can use Decaville Light, Decaville Heavy. You want there to be a pretty good layer here for your grommets to really hold on to. And there we go. Now what you're going to do is you're going to open it up and flatten your seam. I can't really iron or anything like that, but if you wanted to, it's perfectly fine. And then we're going to sew a top stitch right here at 1/8 inch along the edge. Again, you need to make sure that you switch it to the top stitch length on your machine. You're going to be sewing an 1/8 inch seam allowance, and you want to back stitch well. And back stitch well again. Now that we've top stitched along the fold, we're going to open it up and we're going to trim our excess zipper tape. Okay. Now open it up where you see the right sides and open your bottom zipper pull most of the way. Now you're going to take and align all of your raw edges and clip them in place. Now let's take it to the machine and get it sewn together. All right, we're going to sew with a 3/8 inch seam allowance around the perimeter. Somehow the camera didn't capture me sewing. But we just sewed around the raw edge perimeter with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. We did not sew the folded edge. Now what we're going to do is we're going to trim down the corners. Be careful not to snip into any of your stitches. But we want to get as close as possible. This will make our corners really nice and neat once we turn it. We're almost done. We're going to widen the gap for the zipper, and now we're going to turn it out. I like to start in the corners. Our opening's really wide. I love how the waxed canvas gets all wrinkly, but yet it's supposed to be that way. It's like it's design all in itself. And if you don't like it, you can always use a cloth between it and the iron and iron it back out. And then you can get your turning tool and really poke those corners out good. And of course, the closer you got to the stitching, the more sharp your corners will be. But it's not a real big deal here. All right, you kind of get an idea of what the finished bag is going to look like. All we have left is to put the grommets in. We take our binder guide and we center it along this one edge over here. Should be pretty centered on top and bottom also. And then you just make your marks. All right. Once we've made our marks, we are now going to make our holes. So we're going to take and lay our in here. Just take your time. Go as slow as you need to. There's one hole. Two holes. Went all the way through. And our third hole. Now, my fabric will not fray, but if your fabric frays, you need to make sure you use something like fray check or something to that effect to keep your fabric from fraying. I changed the dies on my press, and now I'm going to put the grommets in. And there we go. We have our first grommet in. Let's put our next grommet in there. Sorry, I'm out of the camera. Next grommet. And let's do the very last grommet, and then we are complete. Thank you for sewing along with me today. I'm so happy that you were here to make this zippered binder pouch. With the fold, like you did here, with the wrong side of the back panel to the right side of the zipper tape. Nope, that's wrong. This time, we're going to be sewing close to the teeth. Oops, oh my goodness, it all came off.